About three, two, one, and my Facebook is showing us live with Alan Hops.
Hi.
And I'll tell you what, it's kind of crazy, Alan, because this whole COVID situation has forced us to try to be innovative and grab different platforms, and really kind of forced me at least to press a button and be electronic. And as a result, instead of just staying in Ohio, we're like, well, let's go out and talk with somebody from Atlanta. We talked with Ben Armstrong a few weeks ago. Talked with you in Dallas, Texas, and so the Tuesday at 7 has left the building, and we're now kind of kicking out to different areas. But we appreciate you spending your Tuesday with us.
No problem at all. Content is king, and right now a lot of people have time to make content for their venues that were canceled or whatever, and that's what I'm using this time for. I do a lot of live video stuff, you know that. So we'll get into that later.
Yeah. We have people joining on right now. As you well know, you've been streaming for a whole lot of years. I mean, how many years would you say that you've been either live streaming or posting videos?
I've been on YouTube 13 years.
Has YouTube been around for 13 years? I guess so.
I've been on YouTube. It's either 12 or 13, but I just looked at it recently.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I went back and I looked at my very first video, and it was a silicone mask that I had made. It was a silicone wearable mask, and a friend of mine is wearing it in a parking lot. And it's just, it's a movement video for a mask because silicone was new,
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's amazing how things have changed in just the last 10 years, both electronically as well as products. And it feels as though we're better connected than we ever have been. And you and I probably, as I stepped into kind of the art of hunting and sculpting and makeup and stuff, that was like 91. And I was always forced to be old school, to find a mentor and grab books, and things are much different now.
Oh, the information that you have. Now, the curse of it is I think there's too much information out there, because it's not all good. It was work and it was effort to get a book published. It's nothing to make a YouTube video. I make them. That's a lot of what I do. But
yeah,
it's so easy to say, I've never done this before. Here I go. And then someone else is going to use that as an instructional, not knowing that there's just a much easier way to go.
Yeah.
And we're in an information overload.
Well,
but anything you want to do, you can learn how to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've got a whole bunch of people signing on. We usually patter, and guys, thanks for just kind of joining Al and I in our small talk here. We're going to start in a couple minutes first by giving away the hour with Brittany. So last week, Alan, we had a nutritionist, and she approaches it in a creative way, and it's kind of funny. I asked her if she would. If she had to choose one, would she choose a giant bowl of Lucky Charms, a fresh order of pork rinds with dipping sauce, or a triple Baconator? So I wanted to find out what this nutritionist would say, and she picked a triple Baconator. She says, "Hey, we're into learning what we like, enjoying when we like it, and then living in balance outside of it." And so it was a great interview. But she was offering an hour worth of just direct consultation, conversation, time with her. And so we're going to actually choose, and Brittany is
awesome.
Brittany Cermak is her name, and she was listed as 2019 Young Dietitian of the Year. And so for us to score her and talk with her for an hour was a great thing for all of us. But anyways,
what's funny is I'm shocked that there is a Young Dietitian of the Year as I sit here, a professional haunted house person. You know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised that exists. Oh wait, how many people be surprised I exist?
Yeah, absolutely. But we've got a bunch of names here. I know that if you guys could see in the bottom of your screen here, got a bunch of names. This is everybody who shared during the week, and we're going to choose that name here. On occasion, we've had a winner gift these things away, and so we had a couple of those things away too. But I'm going to open this up. Actually, I'm going to turn it here. And the winner is Steve Ryan. So you are the winner of 1 hour with Brittany Cermak. We will get in touch with you, and you see the name here. And Brittany, thank you for spending your time with us and giving us your information. It was a really great interview. Anybody who just wants to make small changes, incremental changes, results in big outcomes. That's a good one to watch in the library. But with that, there's a whole bunch of people on here live. Right now, we're in the 40 plus range, and people are signing on. As if you guys saw the promo, Alan is giving away an incredible mask. And so, as you share this video, you could share it out to one. You could share it out to a community. I know that folks, we have hunt clubs, and we have artists and sculptors and makeup artists. If you share it, your name's going to go in the hat, and we're going to choose a name next week for this incredible giveaway. And
I want to show the mask.
Oh yeah, bring us along. Thank you.
It's one of my apocalypse masks, and this is the tactical version of the apocalypse. I used to do the apocalypse mask just in a rusted finish.
Yeah.
And this year, with all the craziness heading into March, we did a medical finish on them, which is all white and red. And then we did this black and silver, which is a tactical finish, we call it. So this mask will be going out to somebody who shares.
Wowee. That is incredibly generous and great. That is, what's that made out of, Alan?
That's all EVA foam. EVA foam and some other various bound materials.
Nice. And you have, I think I was kind of creeping through your material, but you have a whole bunch of those masks available. That's one of 8 in that series?
Well, what we do is the Apocalypse line, it's a style of mask. We kind of do things a little bit differently because a lot of who I sell to is a haunted house or a theme park. They're not trying to buy something for themselves for a party. They want to outfit 10 characters.
Right.
So I sell those in 4-packs and 8-packs where they can buy 4 or 8 of them, and just as long as that finish is the same, we'll knock them out. That's how it goes. Because they're all kind of unique. They're all handmade.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it too, is they've got that personal touch, and each one probably has an Alan Hops feel to it and its own originality. But I usually start off my interviews with a question, and sometimes the question is a little bit outside of maybe the expected question. And here's my question. And last night you broke into Elvis while you were live streaming. And the question is this: what other non-hunt talents are you hiding from us?
Non-haunted house.
Yeah, non-haunted
All right.
talents.
I had to work to find a hobby a few years ago because everything I did was work. And I chose fishing. I actually really enjoy fishing. I like fishing for alligator gar here in Texas, which are, if you look up pictures, they look like dinosaurs. I feel like I'm catching a dinosaur sometimes. So when you catch one of those that's 3 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot long, it's just, that's fun. Am I talented at it? I don't know, but I sure do enjoy it. I enjoy painting in all varieties, but most of it's haunt related because that's something that's easy to do for work. Completely separate from haunting, the only one that has no ties and no connection, I would say, it's fishing. Yeah.
I love fishing, and so that's something that we share in common, because the way I see it, a bad day at fishing, which might be a day that we don't catch anything, is still a great day if you can get down and be by the water, and that's that's what attracts me to fishing as well. But hey, so you spend probably more effort streaming out on YouTube than any other platform, and would that be a correct statement?
It is. I used to go Facebook Live a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but the videos are very hard to catalog, and they're just not as searchable. It's not a search-friendly platform.
Right.
When I first started doing videos, whether it was live or canned videos, I wanted to build a library of techniques where any haunted house that wanted to do something was able to go somewhere, look it up, and say, okay, that's one way to do it. Any haunter, they never do it the way you tell them, because they look like, well, what have I got here? Well, that's like that. So they're always going to do something, but I can show them one path to success, even though there are hundreds of paths to success. And this adventure taught me about a huge home haunting community, which I was unaware of. It's a little weird to me that someone does my profession as a hobby. Now I fully understand it, but I was pretty taken aback when I really started realizing, well, this channel is really big for home haunters, because I do a lot of stuff on the cheap with things you can get from Home Depot or other local places.
If I were to categorize what you do, I might say that educator, teacher, instructor, mentor is probably at the very top. And I see that based upon the breadth of stuff that you've demonstrated, the many hours that you've taught, and just pressing that live and going, showing your building, your construction, your painting, and talking us through it. Would you say that that's a passion, or maybe where things are at?
That is a passion that was ignited in me maybe 20 years ago. And yes, sharing is huge, because it's something that, one of the things that I love to do is find new ways of doing things or new things to do. I love to find things that are not associated with the haunted house field and find a way to apply it into a haunted house field. If I could sneak into a plumbing trade show, I would love it, because I would see all kinds of stuff at that plumbing trade show that I could use in a haunted house setting or a haunted house fashion. But yeah, and then sharing it is, I think that's essential to what I do. I was very lucky that I kind of grew up as the internet was growing up. I was just old enough to understand it, and we used to have all these email lists, the Howl email list, and we used to have, all kinds of things that were very young internet, and I spent hours every night going to different haunted house websites and reading the backstory of that haunted house and just soaking in as much as I possibly could. I'm addicted to learning, and I think teaching helps me process what I learn.
Good. I mean, well put. But with that, take us back, and so let's reflect back to Alan Hopp's early years. I mean, I don't know what that means to you, but early years. Let's say prior to, I don't know, maybe prior to middle school. At what point did you realize that creativity was a strength?
My mother felt confident entering me in an art show. I was 3 years old. And I drew a lot. It was scribbles. You know what I mean? It wasn't anything. I was not a great artist. I was not an idiot savant or just a savant or what. I was not that. But I really enjoyed it, and she knew that I really enjoyed it. And my mother was very supportive. I think that she wanted to be an artist, and at the time was not able to be. And seeing art in me, she really fostered that. So at 3 years old, I was entered in an art show. I worked my first haunted house when I was 10. I owned my first haunted house when I was 15. So, I mean, it's very early I realized monsters are cool, and at some point I can make a living at this.
So early on, like you caught the bug, but going from sketching and doing that early art to falling in love with monsters, what was that bridge, or what did that feel like in those early years?
When I was very young, I would sculpt. I would wet toilet paper and get it soapy and sculpt with that, and then when it dries, you have a fairly hard little figure. So I would make toilet paper sculptures quite a bit when I was younger, and I was very much into making things from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
I was not great at reading and doing homework, and I'm terrible at math. But I had a teacher in seventh. I think I had her 2 years in a row. Not because I failed, luckily. I had her 2 years in a row for English. And she knew I read the books, but she knew I didn't do the book reports. Like, I didn't want to do the book report. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, why don't you do something else? Some kind of a presentation. And I would make puppets, and I would do puppet shows. I did Hop Frog from an Edgar Allan Poe story. And I made a puppet, and I used a karaoke machine to do his voice. And it was all in a cardboard box. And, there was a little curtain. You pull back the curtain, and it's just what I did. It was a part of who I was. I wanted to make things.
Yeah, yeah. So, drawing, puppets, monsters. You worked at a haunted house when you were 10. I mean, what is a haunted house when you're 10 and owning a haunt when you're 15? What does that look like, those early years?
It was like haunting the Wild Wild West. Looking back on it, I'm thinking, oh God, that really happened. Because I was a 10-year-old kid, and I went to the haunted house, and I told this story a bunch. My first thing I ever did was in an old office building, and they said, okay, you can scare people. They removed the ceiling tile. They sat me up in the wall with a spider on a fishing pole, and I just dropped that spider down in between groups. This haunt, they're not what they were then. I mean, no animatronics, nothing like that. And from that, every year, I went back to that haunt, I think 2 more times, and I was a bunch of stuff there. And then I decided that I was going to be the Wolfman. And I spent my time, money, and energy putting together a little duffel bag that had my Wolfman costume in it. And I would go to a haunted house with my duffel bag at 13 years old, and I would say, I want to work at your haunted house. I'm going to be the Wolfman, but you have to pay me.
I love it.
And maybe it was $20 for the night, or something like that. Maybe not even that, but because I don't even remember what it was. But I said, you have to pay me. Like, this has to be worth something. And for the most part, the haunt owners, like, here comes someone with his own costume. Granted, he's young, but I was kind of a 40-year-old, 13-year-old, because I'm the only person that I know that has been blessed enough to know exactly what I wanted to do when I grew up. I went from 8 years old. If you asked me what I want to be when I grow up, I would have said a gorilla. That sounds awesome. I would like to be a gorilla. And, 2 years later, I found, this is a job. I can do this, haunted house acting. And yeah, that's what I did. I just pushed forward, and I had a singular focus, and all I wanted to do with haunted houses. So all I want to do is learn. All I want to do is build that next thing.
So you proceed into high school, right? And you already have a little bit of haunting behind you. You're walking around with a duffel bag with a wolf. Is that mask back there? Is that inspired by original werewolf?
There's a mask out called Killer Wolf. Uh-huh. That's what my mask was for a long time, was Killer Wolf. But this is a wolf man. This is I do a lot of werewolves. I do a lot of hairy stuff. It turns out I'm big on hairy bipeds. So, Bigfoot costumes, werewolves, Krampuses are right up my alley, all that. High school, the last 2 years of high school, I kind of cheated. Because schools have work release programs, like prisons do. And so I would put in that I had a job. I worked at the haunted house when school started in September. And then in October, we had the haunted house. And then I would go and piddle throughout the year at the haunt. But I didn't. I probably should have been in school. But I felt I had the gist of it. I'd already had the conversation with my mother that I appreciate you being willing to help. I don't think college is for me. So I'm not going to do that. And shortly after that, the summer before my senior year, I went to Orlando.
Nice.
And went through Terror on Church Street. And I fell in love with it because it was June. It was July. And this haunted house is open, and they're open every night. This was 1994. They're open every night. Some of the cast wasn't there because they were in Japan, because a haunted house had contracted with them to a park over there to do a haunted house in this park in Japan. And I'm like, well, this is where I need to be. So went home, finished my school year, graduated. 15 days later, made my way to Orlando through various trials and tribulations, and started Terror on Church Street. The problem I found out was that my goal was to be a year-round haunted house actor.
Mm-hmm.
That pays $10 an hour.
Mm.
And I did it. I did it at the age of 18. So, then what? Here I am. This isn't the end. I'm not going to do this exactly forever.
Right.
And that's when I really started realizing that a big part of the industry is making things for other haunted attractions. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
So that's early mid-90s that you kind of had this epiphany and that you started to not only act and participate, but then start to produce for haunts?
Yes. 95, 96, I was at Terror on Church Street. 97, Skull Kingdom opened up. All through that time, I had a second job where I was a rollerblading wolfman for a nightclub in downtown Orlando. I handed out free admission flyers for the club. And so that was then. And then 96, I went to my first Transworld trade show, which is where haunted houses go shopping.
Yeah.
That time it was a much bigger combined show where it was all Halloween retail was there pretty much. And then 96, I was enamored. And 97, I said, I have to find a way to get back here. So I had a booth. And I learned how to make masks so that I could have a booth at Transworld so I could afford to go. Because that's where haunted houses were happening, and I needed to be there.
And that was Chicago at the time, is that right?
That was at Chicago, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we have a whole bunch of people joining. For those that are clicking in, you may recognize Alan Hops. But if you're an artist who's clicking in from maybe some other areas of the art world, Alan is a monster maker. He's an educator. He's a sculptor. He's a live streamer. And I think you're a great teacher. And I love the fact that you're constantly refreshing the art world with information. But for those that share this video, Alan has a great apocalyptic mask that'll be drawn next week. And so this thing is, there's a whole bunch of people watching right now, Alan, and we appreciate you taking your time. We've got a whole bunch of people here. I'm going to flip through a couple comments here. Wow, folks are already sharing all over the place. We've got folks that are saying amazing masks. A lot of people just clicking in and saying hi. We've, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people on here. And Ryan Visengard says Al is definitely one of the most unique and talented guys around. Loved and enjoyed his monster making class. So he's somebody that you may know or that you've affected.
What he's referencing is he's referencing something we do here at the studio, which we call Monster Camp. And so people come from around the country, basically, and they learn how to make a half mast. It's a 3 rough days, but Friday we sculpt, Saturday we mold and clean the mold and pour it up, and Sunday morning we pull it, paint it, hair it, and they leave with a mast that they made and a mold that they made. And one of my biggest success stories is when I see someone who went to Monster Camp and now they're making masks on their own. I'm a firm believer that the world needs more monsters, and if I can be the uncle to a bunch of monsters out there, then I am very happy to be that.
That's a pretty tall drink of water to come on a Friday to sculpt, cast, mold, pull, paint, and leave. I mean, that's a big weekend. How many people do you have joining Monster Camp?
Up to 10.
Up to 10.
We do up to 10 in a class.
Wow.
And we've had 4 or 5, and then we'll do. We just had to push back 2, so now we've got the next one I think that has any room in it. And my wife handles bookings because that's not how my brain works. Mm-hmm. So she might get mad at me, but I think we have room in September.
Oh, September's your next one?
The next one that we have room in, yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, makes sense. Jason Blazak from Screamline says hi to Alan. So he's watching. We got Karen Murphy. People are clicking in. Lloyd Kirkpatrick Sr. says, I wonder if that's my carnivore. I'm not sure what he's referring to. Maybe one of here.
He's referring to this. This is a mask that. What's cool is that when you sculpt on air, like when you do YouTube Live and things, people will see something, and then if they order, they see me make their order, So they can say, hey, no, I would like less hair than that or more hair than that. So this may very well be his carnivore. And, so this is a carnivore blank.
Wow. Rex B. Hamilton is on. We've got Dave Duarte. We've got actors, and there's a bunch of other artists here as well. Jessica, who lives in Tampa, Florida, who is not a hunter, but is a designer, says she wants to come to your Monster Camp. So you might see her in September.
Well, and what's amazing is the people who come who are not haunted house people.
Yeah.
One of the last ones we did, I'm going around, I'm saying, okay, what do you want to sculpt? Because I make them pick 2, and get reference material and stuff, and then I'll help them choose when they're here and say, this is probably better for molding in the time we have, and there's this very nice soccer mom who came, and I'm like, what do you want to sculpt? She goes, a peacock. Let's go with that. And she made a beautiful peacock mask.
Love it. Love it. And there's
big old bird.
I love that. I love somebody who comes in and kind of finds their swim lane and goes. That's always inspirational to me. A lot of folks are asking, and in case they click off there's a whole bunch of people live. If they click off, where's the best way to contact you? We're going to continue to talk, but what's your website? What's the best way to contact you for information on Monster Camp or these wonderful pieces of artwork behind you?
StiltBeastStudios.com, as in a beast on stilts, Stilt Beast. StiltBeastStudios.com, that's our website. And StiltBeastStudios@gmail is the email. And Stilt Beast Studios is the YouTube channel.
And let's flip over there because you have a couple of subscribers on YouTube, and I think if I were to you're just about 42,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Well, remember, I've been doing it for about 12 years. So, if you look per year, it's okay. It is good. That is because I did my YouTube Wednesday, I called it, and every Wednesday I release a how-to video of how to it started out with techniques. Here's the technique of dry brushing. Here's the technique of making a wall out of styrofoam. Here's the technique of making a wall panel. And that's a basic thing that some people don't know how to do.
Right.
Or at least it gives them a starting point. And I did that for 3 years. I don't think I missed a week. And that built up, quite a following. It fell off when life got too busy for me to keep up with it, and I started doing more lives. One of the diamonds in the rough of this time period right now is I have more time on my hands, and I brought back YouTube Wednesday with its 4th week, I think, is coming up. The video will launch tonight at midnight on Stilt Beast Studios.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing that. I imagine that people are going to be clicking in and hopefully finding things that they fall in love with.
Do you want a sneak peek at what YouTube Wednesday is?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I made it earlier today, and let me bring it over here just to show it. The bear trap. It's an EVA foam bear trap. This is what YouTube Wednesday is going to be. And I think this is the first time I've ever revealed ahead of time what was going to be shown how to be made. But this is they're great for set pieces, they can, just 10 of these on a wall, make it way more interesting, But yeah, bear trap.
Yeah, I got to plug in my computer here real quick. Folks that are watching may have just seen that little prompt that our battery was running low, but now we're good. We're plugged in. It's the love of live streaming and working through technology. And that bear trap's amazing. And how much? I mean, obviously, if it's EVA foam, it's pretty light. But of course, the 59 people that are watching live right now, we're going to keep it to ourselves. But is this something that's going to be on tomorrow on your YouTube Wednesday?
It launches at midnight.
Oh.
So midnight tonight, it'll launch.
Nice.
Yeah.
So if we go back, and folks are really jumping in and offering cool comments. People are laughing at the fact that we just had that battery low on my side. But if we go back to that time where you're in trans world, you're discovering that, hey, I'm gonna go out to Chicago. I'm gonna have a booth. I'm gonna start to expand what you're doing, and so pick us back up there where you're piling up. Now, were you in Dallas at the time, or were you elsewhere, and you're traveling out to Chicago?
I was still in Orlando.
Okay.
I was still in Orlando, and it was me and 2 friends who decided to be partners.
Yeah.
And I'm still friends with them to this day. Even though we almost got on a fist fight on the show floor because of how a Grim Reaper robe was folded, because neither of us had slept in 4 days.
Right.
Because we're getting ready for this show. And, now when I'm getting ready for a show, it's like, that costume isn't quite finished, so let's leave it here. I'll just take it to the next one. And much more casual about those kind of things. But at that point in time, it was everything. We drove to the airport. We had big boxes that we couldn't fit in his car. So going to the airport to go to the show, we had to put the boxes on top of the car. We had copper tubing that we ran over the top of the box and bent it into the windows. And while he drove, I held onto the copper tubing to keep the boxes on top of the car. And the issue we had was we sold too well at the show.
Okay.
Because we were children, and we had no business having a successful business. And then we were fighting to get orders out on time and those kind of things. But what a wonderful learning lesson.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't know what to charge. Things were way too cheap. But it was such a wonderful learning lesson because I came back in from 96 and I'm like, I got to start making masks. I got to learn how to make masks so I can sell them to haunted houses. And what I did that first time that I went to Trans World was I looked around the show and I saw everything that was. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed. And I'm very thankful I had the focus to walk around and say, what's missing? What should be here at this show that isn't? And nobody at that time was selling stilts or stilt costumes. So that's what I went in with. And I had been a stilt walker for years and enjoyed stilt walking. And that has been a strength and one constant that I've done in the entire 20-some years I've been in the industry. It's still fun.
And how many, and maybe you know the exact number, how many different stilted beasts have you created over the years? 100, 200? I'm talking about not different prototypes, let's say, but how many have you created, painted, and sent off someplace? Because there's probably an army out there.
Probably close to 500. I mean, the four, I'm confident in 400.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure we're pushing at 5. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I don't know exactly how many. I'm not even sure exactly how many masks I have sculpted and molded and finished. I know it's 1,000. I know it's 1,000.
So as I was, I don't know, just checking out some of the stuff that you had with Stilt Beast Studios, I noticed that that your wife Shannon is not the only arm candy in your studio. So what is exactly what is arm candy?
Let's take a walk.
Yeah, let's take a walk.
Anytime I'm moving my camera like this, all I can think of is someone going, "You want to see a dead body?" You know, that's as we're moving through. Let's pray that the internet holds out because we're going outside of the shop.
Gotcha.
This is my back porch area where you can see some molds and molds and molds. And here, this is what I call the booth building. This is a separate shed that holds my trade show booth stuff.
Oh.
And back here is a shelf full of arm candy somewhere. Here it is. There's one. There's one. Here's one. Okay.
And we see some other apocalyptic masks there as well. Pretty nice.
There's a lot here.
A lot.
So arm candy is this. It is. It looks like your arm is missing, and it has been replaced by a really cool weapon. You know, and it's this is high density EVA, but it just has a look in order to give you more menace. One of my rules is don't take away both of an actor's hands.
Right.
But boy, does it look cool when they have a hook on one and a claw. You know, I mean, that's just, it's nasty. And it's such a fun look. And again, it's something that was kind of missing at the price point that these guys are at.
Yeah. So you find yourself at Trans World. You find there's an opportunity, or there's a whoa.
Yeah,
I think that might be my favorite.
But we have like 8 different styles of this right now, and it's so easy to come up with new styles of it, you know?
Yeah. And you said that's foam? Those are foam pieces? EVA foam?
Yeah, these are EVA.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, so it's actually really light. It's a PVC pipe. There's a handle in there for you. So
Wow. We're catching a glimpse at and while you're there, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember back when I was a kid, and I was going to a lot of those non-profit haunts in the '70s, and there were always gorillas. And are you would you agree with me that haunts need gorillas again?
100,000%. Gorillas are so awesome. I had a Facebook post that I was up till like 3 a.m. last night just watching gorilla costume videos.
Oh,
It's something that I also do a monster museum at a Renaissance festival, and whenever I'm talking to people who are afraid to go in, one of the things that I say is, "Are you afraid of a gorilla at the zoo?"
mm-hmm.
They're like, "No, of course not." Would you be afraid if you came downstairs for breakfast and one was in your kitchen? Well, then the answer is yes. Yes, I would be afraid. And they should. I think gorillas tap into the Wolfman, anything that's like mostly human, because they're so close.
Yeah.
But they could, rip a Volkswagen in half. And it's that primal element in us, that people are afraid of. And there's something about when you put someone in a gorilla suit, they go a little wild,
mm-hmm.
and they have so much fun because, you can get away with anything in a gorilla suit. But, yeah.
So in some of those haunts that I went to when I was a lad, I remember, and most of them had a similar thing, and it was you walked in and you had a gorilla in a cage. And the cage was it was sizable, and whatever large man you had in that gorilla suit was large, and the suit even provided a larger presence. But then there was like I think garden hose, right? And they could just go, and they would come right out after you, and that was I remember that more so than some the chainsaws and some of the other things that were present then as well.
The best thing for those bars is bicycle inner tube.
Oh.
The bicycle inner tube, because that'll hold spray paint and stretch. So all your other bars are PVC, and you have the one that is the stretched bicycle inner tube. And that is a classic haunted house room. Classic.
Love it. Love it. So out in back in the 90s, you didn't have the same resources as folks have today, as we talked about. You can click in and have so much information. How did you learn? How did you learn what you're doing now in terms of mask making, molding? Did you have a mentor? Did you go for books? What was that process? What did that look like for you?
I never went. I learned a lot from books, but I never went by the book. Because, I don't think I ever touched alginate until I was like 20, maybe 19.
Okay.
My first bucket of latex I ordered when I was learning how to make masks. I just didn't have it before then. There was a book on how to do monster makeup that I remember very clearly. And just reading it kind of instilled this, well, that doesn't have to be what it is, And I remember that they did the Frankenstein makeup with one of those paper lunch bags, and they just ripped it in half, and they put the top half on your head, which it fits a kid's head, no problem. And then, and painted it from there. And just that, and one of them was, milk crates, egg holders.
Oh, yeah.
You could put those on for your eyes, and have these big bug eyes to be the fly.
Are you referring to are you referring to Dick Smith? Is that the book that you're talking about?
Yes. Dick Smith had a thing where if you sent him pictures of your work or whatever you were doing, he would answer, and he would write back letters, and he would. Dick Smith's Monster Makeup book. Absolutely.
Yeah, right here within reach.
And there's also the Richard Corson's makeup book. was a big one. Corset's makeup book. But it instilled, what can I do with what I have around here? And then once you master that, then you reach out for those more exotic materials and things. And a love of special effects is a love of learning new materials knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the joy is just using a new material, even if you're doing the same thing. But I can do it another way. One more tool in the toolbox is a magical, beautiful thing.
When I take a look at your prodigious library of YouTube videos, I see things like just recently, inbreds and sharks. I see cobwebs,
Yes.
blood, clear tape bodies, brain in a jar. I saw Baby Yoda, and I watched that live, by the way. I saw werewolfery, corpsing, graveyard, statues. And so, I mean, you are really covering a wide range of information, perhaps cheats, perhaps inside information.
I want it to be a library to where there's something I want to do for my attraction. How can I do it?
Right.
There are times when I say, there is no other material that will work for this. You have to buy the good stuff. But a lot of the times I can say, well, you don't actually need latex for that because you don't need the stretch. You could use wood glue, and that will work instead.
Yeah.
And then I'll do it with wood glue. You don't have latex. You can actually use latex, caulk, and paper towels. Pretty acrylic latex, caulk, and paper towels mixed together, and do your corpsing with that. You don't have to go and buy the latex if you don't want to, or if it's not convenient.
I would imagine that there are folks that are in other areas of theater and costume and design and set building that watch you as well, because what you talk about transcends haunting, and so I'm always hesitant to sometimes even use that that term because people have a mental picture about what haunting means, because what you do transcends that. And do you find that you have some folks out there that watch that maybe making peacock masks or saying, Alan, I need some help because I have a set that I don't know how to build this, and are coming to you?
Absolutely. It's much further reaching than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I mentioned earlier that I was surprised by the home haunter audience.
Yeah.
I was aiming this at pro haunted houses,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not my main audience. It turns out most pro haunters, we think we know everything. And home haunters are wanting and willing to learn and experiment and play. And so I really lashed onto that community a lot too. But one video that I have, because I was appalled when I went to buy fake corn stalks from a fake floral supplier, that they wanted $60, $70, $80 a piece for one corn stalk. So I made a video on making corn stalks, and I've had so many teachers and other people message me thanking me for that video because they were doing a Wizard of Oz play, and they had to make a cornfield, and it's pretty hard to do, and that's a video that I've updated like 2 or 3 times on different ways to make corn or corn stalks. In Texas, we don't have corn stalks. It's too hot. Our corn grows about 3 feet high, and then it dies. And that's all that we get. We don't have corn stalks, so I had to make corn stalks if I want them for my show.
So
there's
folks,
a type of bamboo that looks a lot like corn.
Okay.
And I'll go and get that and use it too.
So folks want to learn how to make corn stalks, they go to YouTube and search Stilt Beast Studios, right?
Stilt Beast Studios, yes.
And how many videos do you have out on YouTube, would you guess? Because you're adding some in daily now that we're in lockdown.
Maybe 350, 400. I have a lot.
Yeah.
I have a lot of videos. I mean, now a lot of them are live videos where the live videos are not as focused. The ones that I call YouTube Wednesday, that is focused. It's going to be up to 20, 25 minutes, and we're going to focus on one skill or making one prop, and that's the searchable library that I wanted. When YouTube started doing the live videos, I jumped on that pretty early too, and I just enjoy having that audience with me, having a level of interaction, and working on different things in the shop. That's why it was inbreds and sharks that day, because I had some wrong turn inbreds that I was working on, and those are actually still hanging around the shop. And I made a shark mask here, this shark mask.
Oh.
Now, it's not strapped, so it's not on really well, but...
Well, it's watching right now is a home hunter here. Oh, that's amazing. It's got movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, watching here is a home hunter, and he has an incredible home hunt here, Paul Tylicki, and he has the laser swamp in his home hunt. Yeah. And he has a shark coming out of that swamp. Phenomenal effect.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's what came to mind when I saw that work. I'm going to bounce in here. It looks like Scott Coolheart has shared some links here. So the folks who are watching here on Facebook Live are starting to see links about how to connect with your work out there on YouTube. So there's linking here. There's a whole bunch.
Scott is my digital right-hand man.
Oh.
He isn't we don't see each other. I think we see each other once or twice at haunted house shows or whatever. But online, he helps me out so much when I do, because I'm working on stuff. You know, I'm here, I'm painting, I'm sculpting, I'm in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And people are asking questions and I answer, and he will hunt down that link and post it for me. And what a giant service that is, you know.
Yeah, we have a bunch of folks that have taken your classes. We have folks that are just making fun comments. We see that Doc Loomis, thank you. Rex Hamilton is out there. He said he spent a week out in the Dallas area, and he said that you in fact are an outstanding instructor. And coming from Rex, who's been acting since 1974, I think, has seen a lot, and so that's great information. Jason Blazak asked, well, this is what he writes. Ask him if the name starts with a B. I don't know what that means, but maybe that's esoteric for something. Jill Bergner's watching. We interviewed Jill a few weeks ago. She was on Face Off, one of the more recent seasons. Another phenomenal artist, makeup artist. And Scott, of course, gave us the link to Arm Candy as well. Yeah, and it's fun. It's great comments and way too many for us to even acknowledge right now. And folks, thank you for that. Oh, we got the corn link too. Scott gave us the corn stalk link out there on YouTube, and this is awesome. Jason Blazak, ask Alan if he will be at Woods of Terror this year.
I will. Will he be up? So one of the things that I do that I am blessed to be able to do is in August and September, we spend a lot of weekends going to haunted attractions and doing actor training and makeup training, and working with haunted attractions. And with Woods of Terror in North Carolina, I think we've been there 6 years in a row, you know, and doing a big actor training event to help kick off their season. Nice. And then that's a great time. Hopefully I'll get to see Jason out there. I don't think I've seen Jason in a while. Jason is another awesome haunter. There's a haunt show called Midwest Haunters Convention, and the very first one was in Columbus at the baseball place.
Yeah,
center.
Cooper's Field, I think was what it was called, right?
Yeah, and the convention was in the ring outside. You know, it was undercover. It was one of the weirdest shows I've ever been to. But that was Midwest Haunters 1, and I think that's the first year I really met Jason.
Yeah.
But phenomenal guy. Streamline Studios is a company he's associated with. Maybe not anymore. I don't know. I think so.
Yeah.
I still recommend them to get latex and supplies from. So hopefully he's still doing that. But the world is so large, you know.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah, he absolutely, is still, he's local here to us in Cleveland, Ohio. I've known Jason for 25 years or so, and he still just keeps chugging away. And
loads of talent.
Yeah, and I think that he does some sets down there in North Carolina. So all that talent converges in the same haunt probably there in the fall. Hey, what opportunity do you see in this lockdown or this time that we're in right now? What are some of the things that you see opportunity? Maybe some things that you're like, these are things I'm keeping an eye on. And here are some of the positive outcomes.
Okay, so I'm going to speak solely right now. This first one is from a pro haunter standpoint. All right, and this is a side effect. Last year, haunted houses across the country had a hard time getting actors because the unemployment rate was so low. Everybody had a job. I think the unemployment rate is going to be higher this year, and more people will be available and have the energy to act in haunted houses. And I think that's going to have more people get the bug and get bit and enjoy it and say, oh, and I can make some money at this, you know?
Right.
We have a lot of actors at Dark Hour who fund their children's Christmas by working at Dark Hour through the haunt season. So that's an aspect. I think unemployment is going to be higher. And while that's a negative for my industry, we need a surplus of people in that, that October timeframe. So that's something. Right now, I feel that is a great time to be creating content. Right now, you should be creating content because why don't you create content for your haunted attraction, social media, or whatever? Because you don't have time. You probably have more time now than you did before. Mm-hmm. There are essential workers where kind of nothing has changed a little bit. But if you're not that, then you're going to have time to do some content creation. Learn a skill. A lot of my actors, they ask me, what can we do right now? And it's learn Spanish. That opens up new markets. It gets you new customers.
Yeah.
You can learn new things if you learn Spanish. And while that's ridiculous and probably not an answer you thought I would say, but if you can spend your time right now on Duolingo and do that for an hour a day, like you would if you were going to work every day, what a leg up that's going to give you. Mm-hmm. There's a Telemundo branch in every major city, and they don't always have that content, and they want it.
Yeah.
But it's those kind of things. It's what can you make? What can you design? Haunted house soundtracks this year should be amazing because you have time to sit at your computer, download Audacity, it's free, and mix up a soundtrack for your show. Mix up one for each room.
Yeah.
Right now, every hobby, there should always be a private aspect to it and a public aspect. And with haunting, that private aspect is building things. It's making tombstones for your graveyard. It's doing those things. If you have access to the building, then you can work on set work and do set painting and scenic design. And you can do that alone. But then it comes time where you share it with people. We're open. Well, we're not even supposed to be open yet. But you have more time to work on your show and deliver an amazing product.
This opportunity for you to press the live button on YouTube is releasing a whole lot of information out there, and there's studio time. Sometimes I'm like, Alan was on for 3 hours last night, and you're out there painting and talking to people and staying in touch. What is 2020, the rest of 2020, and maybe the next year or so? What does that hold for you if things don't get strange here with this COVID virus?
Things are strange. Things are going to be strange.
Yeah.
I'm already having to look at changing up some acting exercise so maybe you don't touch each other so much.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you. How can we be effective from 6 feet away,
mm-hmm.
where 80, 90% of your interactions are going to maintain that distance, but still have the same intensity?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be difficult. I think the arm's length rule, which I threw out a while ago, is probably going to come back because people are going to be more comfortable with that distance.
Yeah.
The whole point of a haunted house is to make them feel like they are on the verge of being attacked and yet be perfectly safe.
Mm-hmm.
And working that aspect into everything that I do, when I haven't done that for the past 25 years, that's going to keep me busy through the rest of 2020. We have to adapt everything we know and everything we've done just a little bit.
Right.
And the people who are thinking about it now, I think, are going to do it the most successfully, and have a couple plan Bs to fall back on if customers are not into what they used to be into.
For sure. You made a comment last night as I was watching as well, and it's something that I've seen, that I feel like I've seen consistent with your work. And the statement was something along these lines, that it's kind of like when a polar bear kills a seal. It's striking, and you were talking about the white fur and kind of that.
It's a beautiful image.
Yeah. A lot of your work is light. I mean, you've got a lot of white-haired and creatures and masks and such, and that is, it feels unique to me. I see a lot of dark stuff, and I see your work going on a light end, and I love it.
Well, I'm focusing on different things, I think, than most people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fulfilling a niche. I want to do things that aren't being done necessarily by others as much.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm doing, I think, is necessary for the industry. I think it's product and a theory that can be applied to what I do for a living, which is haunted houses. And one of the bases of that is think in strong silhouette. And I don't paint for the light of the room that I'm in now. I'm painting for a low light environment. And what that means is I want blocks of color, and I want brighter colors, which are going to read in the lighting of a haunted attraction. There are masks that I paint for outside of a haunted attraction, where you have to realize that they're going to most likely deal with a yellow tinge of light on them all the time.
Right.
Because a lot of the outdoor lighting has a yellow tinge to it. And you kind of want to paint for that. A lot of the really beautiful, really realistic paint jobs turn into mud in low lights.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have enough contrast. They don't have enough depth in that little bit of face that you have to work with. A lot of what I do, I base almost everything in black,
mm-hmm.
and then I dry brush on top of that and do lighter and lighter, lighter layers in order to get my depth and keep some of that black in there. The black shouldn't go away. And that's a low light paint job where and I use almost pure white on the teeth, which is kind of a giant no-no, and it can make things look hokey. But the theory is a monster should never turn its back on the audience. So when it gets the scare and then it backs up, it's backing up into darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing that you see is the teeth. He'll get to a point where he's so far back, all you see is those teeth. And that's power. You know, that's something that's a primal fear that I want to tap into. If he gets halfway back and it turns to mud because it's all kind of brown, then it's just not as powerful of an image. I try to hair my mask and sculpt them in such a way where they're going to make a strong silhouette.
Yeah.
So that you can backlight them or use their shadow. A super simple thing to do that I don't think enough haunts do is put LED lights on the floor. What's wonderful about an LED light is that one LED in a tube makes a beautiful shadow because it's so clean.
Yeah.
The old incandescent lights, I'm thinking like a flashlight or a single LED versus a single LED.
Right.
They have that reflector in there, and that means that it's just going to the four winds.
Mm-hmm.
When a shadow from an incandescent light comes towards you, it's diffused. And the word diffused doesn't even sound scary.
Right.
But when a shadow, I can just move my hand this much. But because that wall is 8 feet away, I'm scaring the person who just walked in the door because they're standing next to me. And I'm scaring the person who walked out the other door because my hand's shadow came at them. And it was 4 feet. It was a 4-foot hand shadow because of where that light was.
For sure.
And so I try to build my creatures with silhouette in mind. I try to build them with multiple levels of dynamic movement. So if you move, your head this much, but you have horns on, you get this much movement every time you move your head. So you've made yourself bigger. That's the first thing an animal does when it wants to intimidate another animal. Hair, longer hair. If you're going to have hair, don't waste it on 1-inch fur,
Right.
Get 6-inch hair. So when you move, there's more motion. Your costume is amplifying you, not holding you back.
And then to put it up on stilts creates even more of an ominous present, right?
Yes, haunted house acting is hard, but in the show, a haunt actor on stilts, people find what is eye level,
Mm-hmm.
and they interact and they believe and they have suspicions about that. As soon as you go on stilts and you are then 8 feet tall, 7.5 feet tall, you're not human sized anymore.
Right.
All you have to do is stand still. And the beauty of what we do is when we can economize our movement,
Mm-hmm.
and I can make one little move, a step forward, a reach, and it floors a whole group of people because they thought I was fake. And that's something, that scare, the mannequin scare, is built into stilts.
Yeah.
So many haunted houses, people get a stilt costume, like, well, this is a good costume, let's put it outside. That's great. But in the show, it will rule because it's just so out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Well, we have a whole lot of people watching, commenting. We are so happy that you decided to spend over an hour with us here on Tuesday night. Alan, if you would, show us that mask that you're giving away one more time. And for those who are joining, if you share this video, your name goes into a drawing, and next Tuesday we're going to draw, and you get an original mask, hand touched, painted by Alan. And tell us just really quickly about this. It's Apocalypse.
I have an Apocalypse line of masks. It's something that I thought was kind of missing, this like helmet variety of mask.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several finishes available. we have a rusted finish, which is your classic wasteland apocalypse look, and then we have a medical, which is white and red. Either timely this year or in poor taste this year, depending. I actually made that line so that haunted houses could make content with that mask right now, you know. And this is the tactical line that they're just intimidating, you know. And a lot of attractions, they want to put something on that just makes people look different.
Oh, it's a nice on, too. That's great movement. And that's lightweight EVA foam, and it has
EVA foam.
Wow.
Yeah.
And has Alan's personal touch on it. We appreciate you spending the night here. We appreciate the generosity of that mask. This thing's going to be shared out a whole lot of times here in this next week, and people will be watching it for years, I'm sure. But as we kind of wrap up here, we've gotten some little peeks into an incredible studio out there in Dallas, Texas. And the best way to see more would be to go to YouTube and go to Stilt Beast Studios and dig into that library of hundreds and hundreds of videos and even catch Alan live in his studio this evening. And you're releasing also the at midnight that YouTube Wednesday
comes out. Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah, YouTube Wednesday for that bear trap that I showed briefly on here. Yeah.
All right, Alan. To finish this up, I'm going to ask one last question, and that is, if there, I mean, you're a veteran in this art area. What advice might you give to somebody new, whether it's in acting or in prop making or mask making? What advice might you give a newcomer to say, here's where to start from, just to kind of finish up our interview tonight?
Develop a skill that I call paper doll thinking. Paper doll thinking is, if you think of what paper dolls are and what paper dolls were, it is that base paper doll figure, and then there's all these little cutout outfits that you can put on it and fold tabs over. Everything you see is a paper doll, whether it is something as obvious as a foam wig head. What kind of skin could I put on this to make it something else? But not just that, think about the properties of the object and change the properties of the object. Imagine it's hollow, and now if you need a vase or a shelf, that's a vase. You just have to paint it right, you know what I mean? And put some plants out of here that looks just like a vase. It's that shape. An object is only its function and its shape.
Yeah.
That is all that it is. Anything that you want to create, does it have to function? No. If it doesn't have to function, then the doors are wide open. Then you can make a bear trap out of EVA foam. It doesn't have to hurt you. It doesn't need those properties. So develop paper doll thinking to see the opportunities in everything that's already around you. If you want to get good at something, get good at finding 100 different uses for a tube sock.
Yeah.
Because that skill set will serve you in everything that you do in making things from here on out.
Yeah. Well, that is a lot to think about. And we appreciate you setting us off with something heavy for us to ponder. Alan, we appreciate you signing in, for sharing your skills. Is there Stilt Beast Studios on YouTube, but to get in contact with what you do and where to connect and perhaps buy would be stiltbeaststudios.com. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. A lot of what we do is on there. information on Monster Camp is on there. We also have a Stilt Beast Studios page on Facebook. Something is posted on there just about every single day, where there's always stuff being posted on Stilt Beast Studios.
Perfect.
On Facebook. Yeah, that's probably the biggest, most updated thing for news.
Perfect. Hey, thanks again. We appreciate it. In 1 week from tonight, we're going to draw the winner of that mask. There's going to be a whole lot of names filling this hat, and we'll be back in touch with you to let you know who that lucky winner is. Again, thanks again, Alan. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Certainly.
Stay safe.
Good night.